Well, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
When everything quiets down, you know it's time to start, right? Well, again, good morning, and thank you for joining us today at the DSA Annual Meeting 2013, and particularly here for the announcement of the 2012 Global and U.S. Direct Selling Business Results. I'm Joseph Mariano. I serve as President of the United States Direct Selling Association, and it's my pleasure today to introduce our speakers. We will hear today from Alessandro Carlucci, who is CEO of Natura Cosméticos and Chairman, in fact, of the World Federation of Direct Selling Associations. We'll also hear from Orville Thompson, who is CEO of Sensi Incorporated and Chairman of the United States Direct Selling Association. They're going to be sharing global and U.S. statistics, respectively, focusing on what we believe are numbers that illustrate the important economic and social impact that direct sellers have had around the world. We applaud, of course, the millions of entrepreneurial, independent direct sellers who, each for their own reasons, have chosen direct selling as a way to create a better life for themselves and their families. Whether they're part-time or full-time, these individuals contribute to their communities in manners and ways that go far beyond pure economics, and we'll hear a little bit about that today. So if you would, now please join me in welcoming first Mr. Alessandro Carlucci. Mr. Carlucci.
Good morning. It's a great pleasure to be here with you, to see some friends and to share some figures about our industry. And I can start anticipating that we had another good year in 2012. And here we have. So starting sharing with you that last year, our industry, globally speaking, grew 5.4% on retail sales in $1 billion, reaching 166.9. Wish we could say $167 billion, this growing 5.4%, as I already mentioned. And the most important thing is that 80% of our countries experienced growth. So that means that our industry is growing, is healthy, and as we are repeating, is a huge opportunity to do business all over the world. Who are direct sellers? Because we are going to share also some figures regarding direct sellers. And direct sellers are a combination of people that are involved in our business. Some of them are leaders, entrepreneurs, with dedicated teams working with them. Some of them are trying to be leaders. Some of them are reselling the products. Some of them are preferred customers, are buying. So a combination of people that in some way, in different roles, produces our results. And last year, we also grew 6% in the number of people involved in our business, reaching almost $90 million all over the world. So that means that our industry moves a lot of people, and more than moves, is powered by people. This is a people business, as you know better than me, and it's very, very, very happy. It's very good to see those numbers growing around the world. And also growing on 70% of the countries where direct selling is doing business. Now let's take a look geographically. And here we can see the participation of each region in our business on a percentage of the global sales. And as you can see, Asia Pacific represents 44% of the retail sales around the world. Americas 40%, Europe 16%, and Africa and Middle East 1%. And the last one, even though represents only 1%, definitely this is a region where our industry is going to grow in the next 10 years. So it's a region to take a closer look. Well, in the Asia Pacific, 44%. When we split Americas, you have South and Central America, almost the same size of the North Americas, where you have Canada and US. And in Europe, you have the Western Europe representing 11% and the Central and Eastern Europe representing 5%. So let's take a look of the same representation, but splitted by region and showing the growth in the last year. So here you can see an important message that all the regions grew last year. Asia Pacific 4.4%, Americas 7.9%, and if we split Americas, we can see 5.6% in North America and 10.4% in Central and South America. And 2.2% in Europe, 1.3% in the Western, and 4.3% in the Central and Eastern. So, in other words, we see that all the regions grew, and again, it's a very good and important sign about the strength and the power of our industry. Here we can see also the growth of number of people involved in our business, and we can see almost the same figures. Only in Central and Eastern Europe we had a small decline, and in all the other regions we can see the number of people involved in our business growing. 9.9% in Asia, 4.2% in Americas, and 0.4% growing in Europe. When we take a look about the relevance of the countries, not only regions, we can see an important thing here in this chart, that is the fact that the top 5 countries generate more than 60% of total sales around the world. So US, Japan, China, Brazil, and Korea represent more than 60%. These are the biggest direct selling markets, and excluding Japan, all the rest grew last year. So US plus 6%, China plus 14%, Brazil plus 13%, and Korea plus 4%. So again, this is a very good sign about the strength of our industry. And also, if we take a look regarding where those countries are, there are very interesting numbers that now we can say that is a trend, that even though the emerging countries represent 85% of population and only, between comma, only 37% of the GDP around the world, is this area of the world, or this kind of country, that are really growing more direct selling. So the emerging markets, they jumped from 35% of market share or participation in our industry to 44% in 2 years. So that means that in those places our business is growing faster, and as we know, is a huge opportunity to do business. But an important message here is that the emerging markets are gaining market share because they are growing faster than the advanced market, and not because in the advanced market we are not growing. So this is a very important information, that even in the advanced market, our industry is growing. So that means there is also a huge opportunity, a great opportunity for more developed markets. Last information before I pass to the US data that Orville is going to present to you. This is the Billion Club. All the countries where direct selling is doing at least $1 billion. And we have 24 countries, and as you can see, only in 2 of those countries we saw a decrease. In Japan, as we already saw, and in Italy. And in all the rest of the countries, we saw growth last year, and with 2 new entries in this club, India and Philippines. Again, two very relevant markets where we need to take a look and learn how to do business, because as everybody know in this room, this business is a people business, is a cultural business, so it's very important to understand the local culture and not only the local regulatory, but how people live, how people buy, how people like to do business. So, with only a few slides, but important messages. Our business is keeping growing. Our business is doing good business all over the world. And this is only because of you that are in this room, and also other companies around the world. And more important, 90 million people, as you saw, involved in our business, helping us to be part of this reality that is still a dream, because we are sure that we still have so many things to do. And before I pass to all of you, I would like to recognize the effort of the subcommittee of the World Federation, that is the research one, that in the last 2 years implemented a very disciplined process to allow us to be here today and to share with you very reliable numbers with strong methodology updated. So all these numbers are from 2012. And to do this, you can imagine, we are in 60 different countries. In these figures, we also included countries where we don't have yet local DSAs. So a huge effort. Oh, I don't want to miss the opportunity to recognize and to thank this subcommittee led by Judy Jones that is here. And I would like to thank you, Judy, for the amazing work. And also, I think that our industry deserves a round of applause about the growth in the last year. So congratulations for all of you. And now, all of you, the CEO of the US, no, the chairman, sorry, of the US DSA is going to share with you the US numbers.
Thank you, Alessandro, and thank you for your great leadership at the World Federation of DSAs. We have some good numbers, so thank you. The annual growth and outlook in the official study of the direct selling industry in the U.S., it measures the size and activity of this important industry. This year's survey, based on 2012 industry results, reveals that direct selling in the U.S. increased 5.9% to $31.6 billion, an increase from $29.9 billion in 2011. The direct selling industry outpaced U.S. GDP growth, which was just 4% in 2012. Direct selling continues to be a source of income and support for independent consultants across the United States. Just as we saw that the number of global sellers increase, the U.S. direct selling industry experienced an increase in the size of the sales force from 15.6 million in 2011 to 15.9 million in 2012, demonstrating that the entrepreneurial spirit is alive and well in the United States. To put that in context, that means that about 13.8 households in the United States has a direct seller. The strong growth in the United States is underscored as 7 out of 10 market leaders experienced increased sales in 2012. Several young companies are also contributing to the increase as they are growing at a very strong pace. The wellness category, which includes weight management programs, nutritional supplements, sports energy and bodybuilding, and health food and beverages, has been seen consistent growth since 2008. Additionally, the services category, which includes energy, financial services, internet, and telecom, is growing, fueled in part by energy deregulation in the United States. After returning to a growth pattern in 2011, after several years of flat or declining sales, this year's strong growth points to a sustained recovery from the recession that hit the United States hard in the past 5 years. This growth trajectory, coupled with increasing numbers and increasing consumer confidence suggest that we are likely to continue steady, sustained growth in the coming years. Thank you.
Well, gentlemen, thank you for the reports. Very interesting and very positive data for us on a U.S., domestic, and global basis, obviously. I'm sure that the information in the data might give rise to several questions, and we have a few moments for one or two questions from the audience. Yes, ma'am.
How have the recent efforts against the industry impacted our performance?
The question is, how did the recent criticisms of the industry affect performance? I'll take that one at least at first, if I may. You know, I don't think that there's really been any impact. In fact, these positive numbers reveal, I think, something that's very clear, and that's the fundamentals of the direct selling business and the channel on a domestic and worldwide basis are strong and absolutely strong. This is a strong model. Sales indicate that. The number of people getting involved in the business indicates that as well. Anecdotally, I think, it's also been clear over the last year as companies continue to report growth, and in fact, little notice really of some of the media reports. You know, overall, I think it's clear not only that the sales and the data are good, but the actual amount of media coverage of the industry reflects the positives about the industry. While there has been some degree of criticism that has come from some very limited quarters, people in the financial markets with their own specific agendas that are not very constructive. Actually, most of the press for the industry continues to be very cognizant and making note of the great things that we do as an industry. So I thank you for the question. Any other questions? Ms. Crossman first.
Thank you. Looking out over the next few years, what do you think the outlook is for the U.S. industry?
The outlook for the U.S. industry. Well, I have opinions myself, but since the just incoming chair of the U.S. Direct Selling Association is here and a CEO of one of our growing companies, let me ask Mr. Thompson to address that question. Why don't you take the podium if you would, Marvel?
Personally, I'm very optimistic, but when we crunch the numbers, 3 to 5% growth over the next few years seems very logical and plausible. So far, the numbers in 2012 have shown that we've exceeded that, and so we can always hold out hope.
I hope that's true, and trust it is. I heard someone else? Yes, sir.
How does this break down for both party plan versus one-on-one selling in the United States?
Growth in terms of party plan versus one-on-one selling. I think that we've seen greater growth over the last year, and I'll defer to some of my colleagues who have more expert information on the specifics of the data. In both areas, and we see sporadic growth among certain party plan companies. One-on-one seems to be a greater growth engine for us right now, however. But we'll be happy to provide specific data as part of this presentation after the fact so you can evaluate that more closely and in greater detail. Time enough for perhaps one or two more questions, if there are any? Mr. Lynn.
Joe, seems like every time there's a challenge on the hill, or your batting average seems to be very good, so come to expect there's going to be success. But what would happen if something happened where one of these legislations that are against our industry were able to go through? I mean, what would be the impact, or how would we deal with, what would be plan B?
Well, I'll try that one again. If there were to be some kind of unwarranted legislative or regulatory action against the industry, which, by the way, we don't anticipate at all, the fact of the matter is that the fundamentals, as I said earlier, of the business model are strong and absolute. And I think the industry has always worked cooperatively with regulators and legislators, and I think those efforts would continue to hold us in good stead, even if we had a disagreement over one issue. Ultimately, this business is not about regulation, it's not about legislation, it's about the very things that Mr. Carlucci and Mr. Thompson were speaking about. And the fact that we are empowering people for all sorts of reasons, that they are able to purchase product, make money, get involved, build their business skills, and those will remain. Of course, negative press, negative attention could make it a more challenging endeavor for us as an industry or for individual companies to engage in these activities, but we have a great story and we'll continue to tell that great story no matter what. So I'm optimistic, even should that unexpected occurrence take place.
And I think, I don't know if you can hear this, Fresh, coming to my. I think it's important to understand also, I think that underscores your point that an attack on one or two companies in the industry or one segment of the industry can really cut deep if we don't stand united against it. As a privately held, tightly held company, it's easy to think that our business is our business, and what's happening with the titans on Wall Street with regard to the publicly traded companies won't affect us. But when Wall Street talks and they start to rally resources behind them, that's when the regulation starts to come down on state and federal levels that can affect all of us and jeopardize, very key tenets of our business, like the independent contractor status. So it shouldn't go unnoticed that we are engaging the battle with Wall Street and the short sellers, because we know where that can lead, and that will end up showing up at the doorstep of every direct selling company.
Thank you, Orville. One final comment in connection with that. The response, by the way, from the regulatory community and public policy makers to our continued discussions with them and to data like that which we've been discussing today has been positive, very positive. When you have 13.8% of households in the United States who have a direct seller who's been engaged, obviously our reach and penetration and our story is very clear to everybody, including those policymakers that you're talking about. Time for perhaps one more question, if there is one. All right, well, again, thank you all for joining us today, and thank you particularly to Mr. Carlucci and Mr. Thompson on behalf of the World Federation of Direct Selling Associations and the U.S. Direct Selling Association for joining us and sharing this information with the public. And it's a great story, and we'll keep talking about it. So thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you. Congratulations.